Hello and welcome to our video contemplation of month signature 46. This frequency corresponds with the Two of Wands, the wand virtue of acceleration, and the prime instinct to surrender. It is represented by the angels of discovery and delight.
It's going to be an exciting month. So we have the 24th angel of discovery who walks the pathway of obsession to become the embodiment of genius. And we have the 46th angel of delight who walks the pathway of permission to become the embodiment of sensuality.
Powerful, powerful players here. To be real, every signature, every frequency has its own set of powerful players, but we've been so looking forward to this. And now we're in it. So at the time of this recording, it's January 2nd, 2025. This particular signature will be active and primary, and all of these themes will be primary in the collective for the full month of January 2025. Okay,
Yes.
just to kind of set that in place. We're coming out of December 2024. We're in a whole new year, a whole new month, a whole new set of frequencies or auras. It's a new year frequency. It's a new month frequency.
Correct.
We're coming out of the month signature 56.
Right.
So December was the 56, and now we're in the 46. It's quite a leap. What we were working with in December was a completely different area of the Liberated Tarot.
Right.
We were working with, if I recall it, the King of Hearts is the 56, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the King of Hearts. We were working with the
Noble role.
the noble role of blessing,
Correct.
the prime instinct to merge, and the angels, the two angels. Do you remember what they were?
Yes, so you have the 56th angel of enrichment.
Yeah.
And we have the 34th angel of majesty.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, that signature was all about walking this pathway of enjoyment. First and foremost, it's really always about enjoyment. But that really put it front and center, especially during a month where typically there's just so much, I think, societal pressure to be scrambling around and meeting obligations and doing things that really you don't find enjoyable necessarily. This was an invitation to empower yourself to walk the pathway of enjoyment.
wow, I love how you tied that up, because empowerment is the pathway of the 34th angel.
Yes.
The pathway of enjoyment, there's your 56th angel. So that's exactly what we were meeting in December. And we're going to recap our month of December for you and even share some personal examples to demonstrate how we took that personally and how we made it practical in our lives. But of course, we also recognize a really coherent stream from the energies and the lessons of December and what we're seeing here in this 46th signature in January.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because typically with the day signatures, we move in a sequence. We're just moving through the Liberated Tarot from 1 to 86. With these month signatures, we're not seeing that necessarily linear sequence unfolding because of the way those signatures are calculated. But nevertheless, those themes are extremely coherent and they make sense in the way that they flow from one year to the next, from 1 month to the next.
Yeah, so as we move through the year, the sequential unfolding of all 12 months in that year will maintain a point-for-point sequence. So 46, 47, 48, etc.
Right, but it's very
But at
much
the turn
tied.
of the year,
Yeah.
the month signature is tied to the year signature. So at the turn of a new year, it's like the clock resets in a way. And this is the first time we've ever seen this, we've ever been aware of this, and certainly as a result of that, it's the first time we've ever encountered it consciously. And so we were curious to see how that leap from the 56 to the 46 might feel, and where perhaps strategically or mentally you might expect it to feel a little disjointed, we are seeing none of that. It's still this fluid stream of like perfect thematic congruence. It's very exciting to see and to experience and now to live.
Yeah, and the angels have said to us on multiple occasions, they're all connected And you will discover all of these connections along the way, but don't try to map anything because it's too complex, for us to hold it all in our brains.
Right. So the best we can do is meet it in the moment with our eyes open so we can take in as much of that complexity and beauty and richness that we possibly can. And of course, the more we do this, the greater our capacity to take in that richness becomes. We literally expand to receive more the more often we meet these moments so completely. So we feel really humbled to have this information, to have met the angels in 2024, to have met the Liberated Tarot in 2024, and now to have this massive base of resources available to support the unfolding discovery of all of these things. I emphasize the word discovery because that's one of our angels this month.
Yeah. I mean, the angels, the Liberated Tarot, when we discovered them, we were so amazed that it existed. And not so long after that, we realized how we were going to apply them to support our daily life, to support us in the unfolding of our lives. And one of the things that as humans we're really tied to is the calendar, the unfolding of days, time, months, years. So to be able to practically apply everything that we've discovered to a daily practice, just supporting us in that way is amazing to me.
Beyond.
Yeah. It's really cool.
It's the very thing that makes it practical.
Yeah.
When we can connect it to these cycles and seasons and flows of our everyday life, we find that it becomes more personal.
Absolutely.
So we're very excited by what we're seeing here. Again, we're going to track back to December, take a few minutes to recap what our December looked like. It's going to be important for you to remember as a listener or as a viewer that as we share examples from our own lives, they may differ, of course, from the experience you had in December. That's perfectly fine. What we wish to share is essentially a demonstration of how we chose to work with these frequencies in our life. How you choose to take any of these pieces and run with them is entirely up to you, and you will derive your own great benefits as a result of your own way of encountering this material. But we couldn't be more impressed or grateful for the findings that were revealed to us even just today as we kind of reflected on what even happened in December.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another really practical, really powerful way to work with the frequencies is reflecting on the previous month as you move into a new month, year, day. But the month is such a great time capsule.
Yeah, capsule was in my mind too.
Yeah, that you can really sort of, it's as soon as you move into a new month, it's still fresh enough that you can reflect and say, what happened in December?
Yes.
And see kind of, what has happened, and then pull insights out based on what the themes were. It enhances the insights that you may have already gained.
Absolutely. I had to write capsule down because I'm pretty sure it's not on our words table.
Oh, yeah.
It belongs on the words table. And of course, I'll add time capsule and things like this. But you're right. A year is an awful lot of time.
Right.
A month feels more bite-sized. So we can work with that. But even at that, when we sat down this morning to reflect on December, my first thought was like, where to begin? Like, what happened in December? Our experience of a month has expanded like an accordion almost, and it's contained so much. And it took thought and conversation and a bit of like mental work to connect dots back to the decisions we made in December. But once we did, we were really mind blown by what we saw. So working primarily with the themes of the 56th angel, the angel of enrichment on the pathway of enjoyment, I know at the start of December, after sharing our last month signature contemplation, we decided that we wanted to really commit ourselves to that pathway in the month of December. What that looked like for us is what we hope to be able to share. Is there anything you want to add before I describe what I can remember about that?
No.
Okay. It's so funny. I've got like something tickling my nose.
I know.
Like,
That's
fussy.
so weird because I thought I felt like a hair on my nose a few seconds ago.
So we're not used to picking our noses on camera, but bear with us. So moving out of the prolific stretch of October and November with recording video in particular and these day signatures, there was a lot of, I would say, like inner pressure for us. Inner pressure. It was all personal. Mm-hmm. It was this inner pressure to produce more content.
Right. Keep it going. Be consistent.
Keep showing
things
up.
That they tell you should do.
Yeah.
If you're going to be on social media and wanting to share, what your message is.
Right. We took what felt like a long break towards the middle to the tail end of November from recording videos. So it felt like, hey, maybe we're back into it in December, especially because those day signatures were cycling through the 22 primes of the Liberated Tarot, which we have yet to record day signatures for, have yet to meet in this context, and did in fact feel genuinely excited to learn about. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of conversation between Laura and myself about what to do with that. Fortunately or unfortunately, there were many other things in the mix, however. There was work to be done. There was back-end work on the website that we were also excited to do.
With the holidays coming up.
That's another whole layer of scheduling conflict. And so as we were looking ahead to the month, we had to ask ourselves some pretty serious questions about what felt most alive, because strategically it felt like a bit of a soup. It felt messy. And we didn't know what to do. We knew what we thought we should be doing. But when we paused for long enough to remember the month signature and the lessons of these angels, we knew that the only correct answer to the question would have to come from considering what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Where was the excitement? Where was the fire? Where was the passion? And which of these avenues felt like the pathway of enjoyment to us?
Right.
What we discovered was that there was a lot of energy moving toward the words table. Mm-hmm. Laura, in particular, really, really wanted to have a lot more frequencies, a lot more entries on the words table. In particular, we wanted to add every word, phrase, concept, even long-form paragraphs from all of our angel sessions to the words table. Yeah. That's an enormous effort because I'm adding these one by one manually. Mm-hmm. It takes hours, days, weeks to do this.
Right.
So to commit to doing that was to commit to not doing this backlog of other things that felt really either significant or interesting to us or important or necessary to us. It would mean not recording video because the amount of time we take preparing for these videos, recording the videos, setting them up in post-production, that's all the time in a day.
Right.
So we decided not to record video against the tide of inner pressure saying, yeah, but if you don't continue to produce content, how will you be seen? How will you be visible? How will you be recognized? How will you receive income through these different avenues of support that you've built in? And the answer was, I don't know. Truly, we didn't know, and it was scary. Like we talked about what that might mean and how we would address it. Ultimately, we decided we're going to trust what we've been shown. We're going to do what we've been told. We're going to live this in a real way this month.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I think especially in December, there's so much extra pressure that we feel that
there tends to be socially.
And it happens in any number of ways, but socially especially, there is more pressure. Mm-hmm. We feel obligated. We feel like we have to put other people's needs and wants in front of ours. And that's really the theme that we're working with, and we're applying what we know to. That's what makes it a very collectively relevant theme, and these tools that the angels are providing in place for us to kind of fall back on and trust what we know to do, which is if we are following the pathway of enjoyment, that's what we're putting first and foremost as sort of our guiding light to making decisions and deciding where to put our energy.
Yeah. It's not a lack of strategy. It's a new strategy.
Yeah.
For us, it's becoming more of a baseline strategy.
Absolutely.
But we've been practicing it for some time, and there was just something about December that felt really specific to us. It was a very intentional decision that we made.
Yes, it's almost as if the theme of the entire year was culminating in the month of December. It's like, okay, this is the hardest month to really apply this. Give it a shot.
Interesting.
And that makes sense because we know that the year signature was the 44th angel and the embodiment of merging.
Yeah.
We've talked about what that means to merge.
Yeah.
In the month of December, we also met the prime instinct to merge.
Correct.
So what merging really means to us is merging with your authenticity, merging with the flow of the universe into this principle of you're actually here to enjoy your life. That is the basis of life. So if we trust the universe, we really merge with that idea. That's what we're telling ourselves, and that's how we base our decisions, across the board.
Living this can be pretty obvious at some times and pretty subtle at other times. When you're learning to merge with the life that's yours to live, it's easy to get that tangled up in the intentions that are in fact sincere. For example, in December, we were working with the noble role of blessing. We knew that we wanted to offer our hearts back to life, back to you, back to our families as a blessing. Right. Now, a very overt mechanism for that is these videos. So there was a real and sincere and appropriate part of us that was going, we're supposed to be
a blessing.
On camera. We're supposed to be giving this away.
How can we be a blessing? Sort of thing. Trying to strategize ways to be that.
Right. That was not wrong. But there was a subtle difference between that and the deeper truth on this pathway of enjoyment that came through Laura the one day when she just finally admitted, but I'd really love to see that words table expanded. The moment I truly heard that from her heart as a clear expression of its joy, there was nothing else I wanted to do more. So now we're on the same pathway of enjoyment, and it's all about the words table. This is not overt. This is invisible work. No one knows what we're doing, how we're doing it, or that it's happening. And so how could this possibly be a blessing to anyone besides ourselves? It turns out that there's no way to be a true, authentic, and sustainable blessing to anyone outside of yourself until you can first lay that initial ground of blessing yourself, blessing your own life with the truth, with what is most authentic, with what is most alive. And so we spent all of December just heads down working on these words tables. We worked through every last one of the angel sessions, and we've worked through almost every last one of the previous conversations with stones. We are talking about dozens upon dozens of conversations, every one of which took a lot of time, sometimes days to complete.
I mean, you've added thousands of entries.
When we began the process in December, we had 11,000-ish entries.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
As of today, we're just shy, 100 entries shy of 20,000. We practically doubled the scale of the words table, which means that when you utilize the words table to receive messages, there are at least nearly twice as many messages waiting for you to receive on any frequency. And it's ongoing. We've still got more to add, and every time we have a new session with an angel, there will be more. But working up to our current position on all this backlog, that was an enormous project that we haven't had the time for. And committing ourselves to complete that in December, it didn't just bless us because that's what we wanted to be doing in December. What we realize now is that this blesses the whole year ahead and the whole life ahead, because rather than carrying this massive project that we just don't have time to do for the rest of our lives, it is complete. We're caught up to current, and moving forward, we have a sustainable mechanism in place for including everything we find along the way, which means this can continue to grow organically without leaving anything behind. Yeah. It's quite massive and brilliantly strategic, but we never would have seen that strategy if we worked solely on what we thought we knew, what we thought needed to happen.
Right. Yes.
Based upon what we were able to see.
Yes. We do so many things out of this scramble of there's not enough time and I've got to just put out fires everywhere.
It's true.
when we have a higher perspective, we relax and we can kind of see the bigger picture and understand where to put our energy. And we don't necessarily even need to know how it works out logically, but if we follow that feeling, we can trust that the universe is going to, make that count.
Yes.
Everywhere it needs to count.
That's right. That's true.
And so the thing about the words table that is so brilliantly logical and strategic is because it is the backbone of everything we do.
The hub.
It is the hub. It is the foundation of everything we share, all of our offerings, everything we talk about. We're constantly referencing it daily.
Yeah.
So it is very important and was the best thing we could possibly be doing with that time.
It's true. We didn't know to think of it that way. Even in December, we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's true that the words table is the mechanism by which all of these frequencies speak. The liberated tarot actually means next to nothing. It holds no information void of the words table.
Right.
Even the angels depend upon the words table in really intricate and beautiful ways.
Right. I mean,
so
it was a totally selfish act. I was excited to dive into my own personal frequencies, and I wanted to have as much data and information as possible when I went to plug in my frequencies into the words table and see what messages were there. So I was just super excited to, use the frequency portal that all the products that we have available, but specifically working with our personal frequencies very much depends upon the words table to be up to date. So it was based on pure enjoyment, pure excitement.
Yes. And of course, the moment I recognize that you're excited about something, everything else is off the table, and that's what I'm going to give my attention to. So that's what happened for us in December. I think these moments give us the opportunity to get really honest with ourselves. It's not that recording video would have been dishonest. It's not as cut and dry as that. It's that the more honest truth was that we were more excited about this than that. That's all. And then the step beyond getting honest enough with yourself to identify that is learning to trust that it's enough.
Right.
That's not just okay, but ideal.
Yeah,
now,
that it's going to sustain you somehow.
That's a whole new level.
And that it's the right decision to make.
Yeah.
Well, when you are acting from your enjoyment, we're told that that's all you need to know to feel safe and secure about your life. And
to be held by that same life. That's exactly how we contribute back into this symbiotic mechanism of support that is life. It's pretty wild stuff. And it felt fairly wild to us at the beginning of December too. But we chose to do that, and we've been the recipients of blessing after blessing as a result of that decision. As day after day, we offered all of these hours to these frequencies, which were communicating to us all along the way. It was like being on, like in Indiana Jones movie or something. Like we were on the hunt, and we were capturing all of these frequencies that we didn't even know exist and finding connections we didn't even know existed. It was amazing, fun. In addition to this, much to our surprise, we found that our days were more spacious because we had this one thing to do, and we knew what to do. And fact of the matter is, December would not have had so much opportunity for discovery of new things, for visiting family like we did for a good long period of time. There would not have been the space for all of this to unfold if we were focused on recording video.
Right.
Again, we didn't know this at the start, but we found this out along the way. It was revealed to us. The light year ledger came to life in December, and we had no way of knowing at the beginning of December that this was a missing piece of our catalog of resources.
Yeah,
it didn't exist. We had no way of knowing, and then bam, there it was. But it's alive now because we followed that pathway of enjoyment, which produced the space and the opportunity for us to be available to receive it when it landed. We would not have had the time or the mental space to do so if we were engaged elsewhere.
Yeah, it would have been, wow, that's a great idea. Let's shelf that for when we can address it. Instead, we were able to act on it immediately.
Yeah. I mean, I personally doubt we even have had the idea, because the whole series of events that led to having the idea, the conversations, all of that, none of it would have had the opportunity to happen. It's like we would have been living a completely different story.
Absolutely. When we record these day signatures, we're very much, our discussions, our daily discussions revolve around what we're going to talk about. Right. So we wouldn't have even been talking about it because we would have been focused elsewhere with
a different subject.
Yeah.
Again, it's not that we would have been on the wrong timeline. It's that the path we chose proved itself to be a really viable path in spite of our fears. That's what we're trying to communicate. We chose to follow the pathway of enjoyment, and it bore fruit. I mean, it bore like bouquets of flowers and fruit. Beautiful, extremely exciting month. In addition to the light year ledger, just a little hint at this, we're far too excited to get into it in this video, but the crystal self experience has been completely rebuilt, remapped, all new frequencies. It is new from the ground up. Even for those of you who have experienced the crystal self before.
Oh, it's all new.
There is nothing about the coming experience of crystal self that will feel familiar to you outside of the basic shape of the map. Right. Everything else is different. All new frequencies, names of frequencies, everything. It is awesome. And it's excited. Ours now.
Yeah.
Where before it was mine, it's now ours. And it's massively expanded in terms of its value, in terms of just the excitement level. We can't wait to dive in. All of that happened right at the tail end of December.
Yes.
Never would have happened. There just simply wouldn't have been space. So we learned that we don't need to try to be a blessing. When we show up this way, we become a blessing because it's a natural expression of self.
Right.
And in doing so, that blessing loops back to bless us.
And I would also love to draw a metaphorical connection to the embodiment of decadence.
Ooh, I like this.
You know, we have the 56th angel of enrichment who walks the pathway of enjoyment. Well, the embodiment is decadence.
Yes.
In a month where we always think of decadence during December because the holidays and the eating and all of the just, there's more of everything, and it feels decadent. It feels almost indulgent. That's what we think of when we think of decadence, but what we learned is true decadence.
Yes, that's
the
accurate.
Angels talk about what true decadence is.
Yes.
For us, it was having this decadent space in our day to be able to make these discoveries, have our creativity just bursting, and coming up with all new ways to apply that creativity. Things were invented in December, and that was so decadent to us. So.
It's the most exciting thing. Our minds can only see so far. We do our very, very best, but the fact of the matter is, no matter who you are, your perception is limited by the amount that you currently know. There's always more to know, always more to see, and life is aware of all of this. It's always got the better plan. So decadence reminds me of an example that I like to share in the Forgotten Sense material, where we're kind of trained to work really, really hard to attempt squeezing out an apple. If we could just get one apple, we want to bear a fruit. If we could just do that. And for most of us, even that seems impossible. So we dedicate ourselves to this function. We hope to squeeze out an apple. And life doesn't deal in those terms. It's not trying to produce an apple. It knows that we are apple trees, and that we will produce many, many apples, so many that you couldn't possibly eat or gather them all. There will be apples that drop to the ground and rot. And life knows that you're not just an apple tree, you're a whole orchard of trees, and all of them are producing apples. When we attempt to harness our individual strategies towards some version of success, some artifice of success, we fail to ultimately achieve what life has in store for us. We are not available to receive it. When we walk this pathway, we take our hands off the need to know. We stop trying to squeeze out an apple and we say, okay, I guess I'll see what happens if I let nature take its course. And then it does. And then there's this overflow, and you live in the overflow. And that's not just now, that's every now that you choose to walk this path. We're not just talking about this stuff, we're living it. And as we're living it, we're being surprised by it. And as we're being surprised by it, we're doing our best to share that with you. Not so you can be like, dang, Tim and Laura are just really, really special people. No. We're normal, average people. We're people just like you. We're Timothy and Laura, and you're you. And we're thrilled to be able to say that as we demonstrate this, it is providing evidence for you. Anyone can do this. Anyone will experience their version of this if only they will permit the path of enjoyment. And that word permission pulls us right into this month.
Yes, it does.
it was about enjoyment in December. It's about permission in January.
Yes.
One of the things we discovered yesterday when we recorded our year signature, the year signature is 45, and one of the matches to 45 is double down.
Mm-hmm.
That's what January is calling for. First and foremost, all of that cool stuff you learned in December and proved to yourselves in December. Don't just keep going, double down.
Right. And don't double down in the way that most people do in January, which is strategize more. I got to make a New Year's resolution. I need to get to the gym. I have to start meal prepping. All of these things that we have been used to doing in January.
Yeah, it's funny. Interesting.
It's like flip it completely in the opposite direction. Double down on your enjoyment.
Yes.
Double down on delight.
Yes.
Double down on permission.
Yes.
It is a total flip-flop.
Yeah, you said something earlier along those lines, like January is historically the month of retracting permission. Like, no more permission. Now I'm going to get on it. Now I'm going to restrict. And exactly. I'm going to work really hard. And what we're talking about here is doubling down on releasing control, doubling down on relaxation, enjoyment, and surrender. So we're dealing with the prime instinct to surrender. I can't get over this. I love this prime instinct. There are a few things that I can't help but see. First, this prime instinct connects to the 20th member of the Liberated Tarot, which is decision. So what is the ultimate decision? Well, we have found, our finding will continue to prove that the ultimate decision is to surrender to that flow of life, to that flow of your own life in its natural way of unfolding, its natural rhythms, its natural intelligence. That's the very thing that produces a month like December produced for us. Yeah. So what's the ultimate decision? It's to surrender. That's why surrender is the prime instinct of that tarot member, and it's connected here as well. What are we ultimately surrendering to? Yes, we're surrendering to life, but we're surrendering to the highest possible expression of our own life. We're not just surrendering to enjoyment. We're surrendering to decadence. We're surrendering to delight.
To sensuality.
To a real, full, rich experience of life. That's what sensuality is. So the ultimate decision, the no choice choice, is to finally give up your attempts to control or to strategize and to trust that there is a higher intelligence orchestrating your life to benefit you, orchestrating all of life on your behalf. Surrendering to that is the wisest decision you could possibly make. That's why it's a no choice choice. The moment you see it, there's nothing but that to do. So we surrender to life. The other thing I really, really enjoy about this is that it's a prime instinct. Imagine that. Really consider what it means to say that inherent to every one of us is an instinct to surrender.
Yes.
That's wild. Have you uncovered your instinct to surrender yet? For most of us, it feels risky and terrifying. It feels like the opposite of natural. It feels like a bad idea to surrender those strategies, to surrender our attempts to control, to surrender our effort. It doesn't matter that none of those things have actually borne sustainable fruit ever. To know that under all of our efforts, to know that under all of the lies that have been injected into our psyche is this living, pulsing truth, this instinct to surrender to life. It's like if you're swimming upstream and swimming upstream, it's inevitable that at some point, no matter how strong you are, no matter how much faster than the other people swimming upstream you may be, ultimately everyone hits a wall of exhaustion and they have to release.
Yes.
The instinct is to surrender, and when we do, we're swept away by that stream of a larger life, and we discover that everything we actually wanted is downstream anyway. That's a part of what we're learning today. Now, this month, January is going to teach us that the only true decision, the only appropriate decision, the only beneficial, sustainably beneficial decision is to surrender to that larger life, to surrender to our enjoyment, to surrender to delight. That's delicious.
Yeah. Sounds
delightful.
Easy.
It sounds easy. Yeah, that's great.
It sounds easy and it sounds fun. Tell me more.
Well, it reminds me of the prime instinct of the year, which is to play.
Yes, totally.
What happens when you stop working and you realize there's nothing for you to worry over and you're completely cared for and you have all the creative space in the world to do anything you wish with? you play.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when we surrender.
Yeah.
We think we're surrendering ourselves to like fate
Mm-hmm.
and, crossing our fingers that we don't just die. We talked about yesterday walking off this, what appears to be a chasm, and we're afraid we're going to die, and then we don't.
Yeah.
That's one thing, to not die. It's another thing to truly live, and that's what we're being called to. This surrender is not into a void of, potential harm. We're surrendering to care. We're surrendering to provision. We're surrendering to intelligence, to genius, to excitement, to fulfillment.
We're surrendering to trusting how we feel about something.
That too.
Because we're not saying just quit your job and see what happens because, the principle is we'll be cared for. It's about following these inherent intelligences that
awesome.
know exactly how to guide you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what these angels that we're dealing with this month in January are, they're giving you clues as to how to do that. And it's all about how you feel. So if something feels delightful,
yes,
permit yourself.
Yes.
And see where it leads. If you have this like obsession, you just really love something and you get into that flow and you're working on it. It could be anything, could really be anything.
Yeah.
For us, it's
this.
Numerology. It's this. We get obsessed, and that feeling is a good feeling. You warp time. You forget all about what's going on around you. That sort of feeling is exactly the type of feeling that you want to permit and follow.
Yes. There's another powerful connection here to be drawn to the Two of Wands. I didn't see it. You saw it this morning. The twos throughout the Liberated Tarot always connect to two primary themes.
Yes.
Which are?
Choice and union.
That's decision and merging.
Yes.
Everything we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we're here in the Two of Wands. The Wands is active, and that action is practical. It's real. It's something you are engaged in physically. It's a pragmatic action. And it's about choice. It's about taking steps based on your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And we're being shown how to discern which decisions support life and which decisions do not.
Right.
It is important to say that we're not encouraging you just to kind of quit everything and see what happens. We are, however, encouraging you to sense into all of these different avenues of your experience and identify for yourself where the energy is most alive, where your heart is active.
Right.
That's what we're called to do. In contemplating all of this, I was reminded of an episode of Chef's Table we watched some time ago, and I can't remember the episode. I apologize. I can't even remember the specific details. I know that there was this guy who, when you first look at him, appears to be this kind of strong, burly, large presence. And first take is he's kind of intimidating, and you'd expect him to be a lumberjack or something. But no, he's a chef, and he's not just any chef. He's the top-rated pasta maker in the world,
which is an extremely delicate, art form.
And he speaks, and it's at first you can't even compute the tenderness in the tone of voice with the image of the person in front of you, the big beard and the tattoos, and it's just the most phenomenal example of what we're describing here. You can imagine this person being pressured through society, pressured through education, pressured through family to move in one or another direction based upon how he looks, based upon perhaps familial expectations. Maybe he was supposed to be an athlete or a lawyer. All of these different opportunities available to him, but only one true story. Yeah. And so this guy ends up being a pasta maker of all things. I just love that. That's what we're invited to do for ourselves, to look at our own life and say, for me back in the day, is this it? Am I supposed to be a machinist? Does this have my heart? No, not even close. Time to move on. Time to discover what does. That's a terrifying but necessary act. And there's no way to consider the trajectory from machinist to where we are now. None, especially not when you look at the winding road that brought us to this point. But all along the way, life was teaching me how to sense my way toward the more and more honest reality so that my life could express itself authentically as a real, vibrant, fulfilled version of Timothy. Yeah. Every one of us gets to tell that story. In this regard, I am not special. However, we all have a special story to tell. So we are all special. I never wish to minimize the absolute originality inherent to every one of us. But if we're all original, then we all have the same access to that perfect expression of self. So in that regard, we're not special. We all have complete freedom.
Yes.
It's wild to think about, but it's necessary. And so January is calling for us to discern where that path of enjoyment lies and to permit that. Permit delight. This is a feeling situation, not a thinking situation, which is why the embodiment of this 46th angel is sensuality. It's something you literally sense. You're going to feel the truth. Yeah. And then what's the other angel? The 24th angel of discovery on the pathway of obsession to become the embodiment of pure genius.
Right. We all have this inherent genius. And it's something that you feel inside of you. You know that your genius is expressing when you're
obsessed about something.
Obsessed. You're in the flow of creativity. It comes totally natural to you. It's effortless to you. Other people recognize it. You might not even recognize that it's anything special. But you will notice that sense of acceleration, which is the theme of the Two of Wands this month. It accelerates your life. You warp time. You feel like you could do it forever because it's so enjoyable to you. It's a delight.
But only when permitted.
Right.
There is a powerful connection between these two pathways, permission and obsession. Are you willing to first identify your obsession? Be honest enough with yourself to admit what you're obsessed about. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be something like what we're obsessed about. It could be knitting. It could be pasta. It doesn't matter what it is. The more individual it is, the better. The challenge is permitting it, because I guarantee you, while this guy's over here working with pasta, at some point in his journey, he's going, this is ridiculous. You can't make anything of pasta making. I need to do something else. I need to.
I should
in order to survive.
Versatile. I should appeal, to everyone's senses or
to my parents' expectations or to any number of things. There are all of these outside pressures, and none of them mean a whit to you. None of them mean anything. The only thing that matters is what awakens something in you. So that obsession has to be permitted. If it's permitted, then you get what Laura's describing. Then you get time warping. Then you get the expression of your own genius, which maybe you've never even met before because you've never allowed it to surface. It's there. It's always been there. And some part of you knows it. Some part of me has always been connected to this. Since I was so young, I can't even remember that far back. And that's by design. Only now at 36, I'm permitting it as holistically as I possibly can. In spite of all the same worries all of you hold, all the same worries I've always held about financial support, about how other people might perceive of me or of this material. At the end of the day, every one of us has to make a decision. And a part of that decision is saying it doesn't matter. It does not matter. I'm all in. Because like we talked about in the year signature, there are no halfway measures when it comes to this life. You're either living up to the larger life or you're holding yourself apart from it. You're not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's a complete extension of yourself towards something. And that is the very thing that allows for true discovery to occur. It's the very thing that allows for a sustainable relationship with the theme of delight. There's no way around that, though. You can't cheat the mechanism. Life requires all of you. And all of life leading up to that point of you delivering your whole self to something is about kind of edging you toward the edge of that cliff, right? Edging you toward that cliff so that you will take the leap and discover that you are built to fly after all this, time of crawling around like a slug. So pretty remarkable stuff we're finding here. Moving forward, we always like to share something practical, a takeaway. Okay, we've talked a lot about a lot of different themes, and all the words are beautiful. But when you leave this and you're thinking, what do I do next? We want to give you what we see as a really helpful takeaway. You think now's a good time to share that?
Like a good check-in. Absolutely.
Yeah, good. I like that word. Like a personal check-in. At any given moment, whether it's immediately following this or later today or some point later in the month.
Mm-hmm.
We came up with a question that can be really useful, and we're going to use this ourselves.
Absolutely.
The question is this decision, is my decision rooted in delight?
Right.
That's a fair question to ask. And really the only requirement is for you to remember to ask it and be honest in your response.
Mm-hmm.
Another way to ask it is this a delightful idea? This thing I'm considering, this move I'm thinking I might make.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a delightful idea?
Right.
Is this activity I'm engaged in right now a delightful activity?
Mm-hmm.
And before some of you get smart and say, hey, look, every one of us has to meet certain moments in the day where we do something that's not delightful, I would actually beg to differ, because we've lived complete days where there was not a single activity that wasn't in fact delightful. The fact of the matter is, when you're connected to this stream, even the most mundane activities take on this spiritual aura, and all of a sudden there's nothing more delightful in this moment than running a load of laundry or taking a shower or even using the bathroom. There's nothing in life that cannot be delightful in its proper time. So if we get really good at asking this question and trusting what emerges in response, we're going to start to live very delightful lives. And as a natural extension of experiencing delight in our own life, we will become more delightful personalities in life.
Mm-hmm.
We will become a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
everything is an orchestration. Everything is organized. And when we sort of fall into our natural place in life and in that flow, we're connected to even the right people who will
absolutely
benefit from that delight.
Yes.
In the same way that maybe somebody, like, what is delightful to one person might not be to another, sort of thing. So you find your tribe, everything clicks into place.
Yeah. What's delightful to you will not be delightful to a large number of other people. There are billions of people in this world. You don't need everyone to love what you love. But the ones who are, in fact, resonant with what's most delightful to you will be gobsmacked by it, will be so impressed by you and what you're producing simply by being yourself. Mm-hmm. That's a guarantee. There's a note you wrote here.
Oh, okay.
That we haven't read yet, but I think it's worth sharing before we sign off.
Okay.
Would you like to read it?
Sure. Permit your delight and obsession. Your life accelerates when you do. It's a good little summary of all the main words, the key words, the main points.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted you to read it in large part is because that word accelerates we haven't even touched on. We have, in a way. You've talked about warping time. Mm-hmm. Obsession warps time. That's what we're talking about here. We've said this before, we'll say it forever. There's no way to explain everything that has happened here in the world of the 64 angels in the last 6 months alone.
Mm-hmm. Literally 6 months.
6 months ago, the website itself didn't exist. Mm-hmm. 1 month ago, the words table was half the size that it is. There's no way to logically explain how that happened in that amount of time. I've been building brands and websites professionally for a long time leading up to this, and I've never witnessed. And before that, I was in production manufacturing. I know what efficient production looks like in many different categories, many different types of business. I've never seen anything like this. It's not because we're brilliant. It's not even because I've had that prior experience. It's because of everything we shared with you today.
Yeah,
this is
alignment.
Our version. Mm-hmm. When we are aligned with the larger life that we are here to live, when we get honest enough to live that out authentically in real ways, life happens. And it happens quick, because if there's been a dam with a whole lot of water or life and movement and energy and enthusiasm behind it, and you remove the dam, it all comes rushing through. Mm-hmm. We're used to standing on the outside of that dam and watching little droplets and going, man, I'll take what I can get. We're licking the walls. It's time to take down the walls. Yeah. And that's exactly what January is inviting us to do.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, no more licking the damn walls. There's your summary.
Nice.
Never saw that one coming.
Amazing. Yes.
So we're excited. We've been having fun. We're inviting you to join us in your version of that same fun. And we're inviting you to play. And so is life, apparently, based on this whole year's signature.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. Play is not this month's signature, it's the year's aura. So all of this is held in that frequency of play. So we get to go out and permit our enjoyment. We get to delight in our lives, and we get to have fun along the way. You said at one point today, that doesn't sound so hard.
Yeah.
That sounds easy. That sounds wonderful. And so it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see you again at the very least, we'll see you again for another month's signature discussion come February. But in the meantime, have fun. Make the most of what we've shared. Join us in that. And if you're not already following us on Instagram, we've recently condensed a lot of our content creation and delivery of gifts and giveaways and angel messages to the 64 Angels profile on Instagram. We were sharing on our personal profiles.
Right.
Now it's all going to be coming through at the 64 Angels on Instagram. So for those of you
migrated from our personal pages to the 64 Angels.
Correct. So for those of you who enjoy this, if you're not following us there, please know that you are welcomed and invited and desired there as well. Thank you for joining us here today. This has been wonderful. Now it's time for us to go delight in some food.
Yes.
And laundry.
Sounds great.
It's going to be a wonderful day. So enjoy, and a wonderful month. Enjoy yours, and we'll see you again very soon. Goodbye for now.
Bye.